Before dawn, a red fox stands beneath a street lamp with something trembling between her teeth. She does not run when the bakery door opens. Instead, she lowers a tiny cub onto the warm concrete. The cub's breathing is shallow, and one paw hangs at an unnatural angle. Inside, Mara freezes with a tray of bread pressed against her apron. The fox meets her eyes, steps backward, and waits. Every instinct should pull the animal toward darkness. Yet the mother remains inside the circle of human light. Why would a wild animal bring its most vulnerable treasure to the species it fears? The answer begins where fear collides with desperation. Across forests, coastlines, farms, and city edges, similar moments have been reported. A mother appears, a baby is in danger, and a human becomes the final uncertain option. These stories feel miraculous because they reverse the oldest rule of survival. Wild animals normally hide weakness from predators, rivals, and strangers. A helpless infant is not displayed. It is guarded, concealed, and defended. But emergencies can break even ancient patterns. A trapped baby changes every calculation. The fox outside the bakery is not offering friendship. She is making a choice under pressure. Mara slowly places the bread tray on the floor. She turns her body sideways to look smaller and less threatening. The fox's ears flatten, but she does not leave. Mara calls the wildlife clinic without approaching the cub. Minutes later, a battered rescue van rolls into the empty street. Dr. Lena steps out, carrying a blanket, gloves, and a quiet voice. Elias remains near the van, leaving the animal a clear escape route. The fox watches every movement from beneath a parked bicycle. No one reaches toward her. No one blocks the alley. Only the cub is gently lifted from the pavement. As the van door closes, the fox follows for 3 silent steps. Then she disappears between 2 buildings. Did the fox recognize the bakery as a safe place? Or did exhaustion simply overwhelm caution? We cannot enter the fox's mind and retrieve a clean explanation. What we can examine are the pressures surrounding the choice. We can study memory, observation, learning, attachment, and survival. She selects a doorway that opens before sunrise. She stays close enough to monitor the response. She leaves only after humans begin helping. That sequence does not prove human-like reasoning. It does suggest a decision shaped by experience. The first key is that wild animals are not born with one fixed opinion of humanity. They learn from encounters, smells, sounds, places, and consequences. Survival rewards useful memory. It also punishes careless trust. This creates a map inside the animal's behavior. A rare few become associated with food, shelter, or rescue. On a coastal road, Elias once found a seal pup beside a drainage pipe. The mother circled offshore, surfacing in the same narrow channel. Cars hissed across wet asphalt while rain filled the ditch. The pup could not climb the concrete slope. Elias placed traffic cones far from the animal and opened a path toward the beach. When the tide rose, the pup slid toward the sand. A larger wave carried it into the shallows. The mother vanished beneath the surface beside it. She tolerated his presence because his actions reduced the threat. Trust in the wild is often not a warm feeling. It can be one dangerous minute granted to a useful stranger. For a parent, even that minute may save a life. The second key is parental investment. Many animals spend enormous energy producing, feeding, warming, teaching, or defending their young. A newborn represents months of risk before birth and months of labor afterward. Losing that infant can erase an entire season of effort. Elephants carry calves for nearly 2 years before birth. Parental behavior is not sentimental decoration. It is a powerful engine shaped by survival. When a baby is trapped, that engine pushes against fear. At the edge of a farming village, a young elephant falls into an irrigation trench. Its feet scrape the walls, sending dry soil into the air. The herd gathers beyond a fence but cannot reach the calf. Villagers arrive with shovels, ropes, and a tractor. The adult elephants trumpet and strike the ground. Every person keeps the machine between themselves and the herd. The tractor cuts a shallow ramp through one side of the trench. Dust clouds hide the calf for several seconds. Then a small gray head rises above the slope. The mother charges halfway forward and stops. The calf stumbles toward her shadow. The herd closes around both animals like a moving wall. The humans simply become the least harmful force in a terrible moment. That may be enough to explain many dramatic encounters. Animals can observe how humans treat other animals. They notice routines around farms, clinics, parks, and harbors. They learn that certain uniforms, vehicles, or buildings predict particular outcomes. This learning does not require language. A repeated pattern can shape behavior without a spoken concept. Dr. Lena sees this outside her clinic every spring. The animal does not need to believe all humans are kind. It only needs to distinguish this human from the others. That distinction is the fragile bridge behind apparent trust. One afternoon, Mara joins Lena beside a riverbank crowded with reeds. A female swan floats near a fishing line tangled around her cygnet. The mother strikes the water whenever the rescue boat approaches. Lena stops the engine and lets the current carry them closer. Mara holds a net low instead of raising it overhead. The cygnet twists until the line tightens around one wing. The mother rushes forward with her neck curved like a drawn bow. Elias cuts the line through the net while Mara shields his hands. The cygnet drops into the water and paddles toward the reeds. The mother follows, placing her body between the boat and her young. For 1 second, she looks back. The rescue remains meaningful without turning the swan into a human character. Respect begins when wonder does not erase uncertainty. The third key is communication through behavior. Animals cannot explain the emergency, but they can lead, wait, return, call, or refuse to leave. These actions are sometimes interpreted as deliberate requests. It matters less to the baby needing help. On a mountain trail, Mara encounters a doe stamping beside a fallen log. The animal retreats 10 meters, then returns to the same spot. A thin cry rises from the bracken. Behind the log, a fawn is wedged between two branches. Mara removes her backpack and sits on the ground. The doe stops stamping but keeps her muscles tight. Elias approaches from the downhill side with a folding saw. He cuts the upper branch without touching the fawn's legs. The released animal collapses, then kicks into the grass. The doe runs toward the trees. The fawn follows after a moment of confusion. Mara never knows whether the mother intended to recruit her. Yet careful attention turned ambiguous behavior into effective help. That is one reason these stories matter. They reveal the value of watching before acting. They also reveal the danger of romantic assumptions. Not every animal near a human is asking for rescue. Removing healthy young animals can cause the very separation people hope to prevent. True help begins with distance, patience, and expert advice. The safest rescuer is often the person who does less. Dr. Lena teaches this lesson beside a classroom table covered with empty boxes. The children lean forward when she describes the fox from the bakery. They want to know whether the mother returned. Lena pauses beside a small carrier covered with a blue cloth. The cub survived surgery, but recovery required 6 quiet weeks. The goal was not to create a tame fox. The goal was to return a wild one. Meanwhile, Mara checked the alley each morning before opening the bakery. For days, she found only rainwater and bicycle tracks. Then a line of muddy paw prints appeared beside the back wall. A piece of bread remained untouched near the drain. The fox had returned, but not for food. She had likely followed the scent left by the cub. Mara watched from behind the glass without opening the door. The fox searched the pavement, circled once, and slipped away. That quiet visit changed Mara's understanding of the first morning. The mother had not handed over responsibility and forgotten. She had remained connected to the missing animal. Trust had not erased attachment. It had merely carried attachment across an impossible gap. 6 weeks later, Lena chooses a release site beyond the last row of houses. The van stops beside a field bordered by pines and stone walls. Wind moves through the grass in long silver waves. Elias places the carrier near a fallen tree. Mara waits far behind the van, holding her hands inside her coat. The door rises. For several seconds, nothing moves. Then the cub steps into daylight with one healed paw touching the earth. Its nose lifts toward the forest. A red shape appears between 2 distant trunks. The cub freezes. The adult fox takes 3 careful steps into the clearing. No music plays in the field. No one speaks. The cub runs. The mother turns, and both animals vanish beneath the pines. Mara presses her sleeve against her mouth. Lena closes the empty carrier. Elias studies the ground where 2 sets of tracks now overlap. The reunion feels like proof of a bond between species. But the deeper truth is more demanding. The humans succeeded because they resisted possessing the animal they saved. They offered skill without demanding closeness. They accepted that the best ending was disappearance. This is the fourth key to understanding wild trust. Animals may approach us because we can manipulate doors, tools, vehicles, nets, and barriers. Our strange hands can solve problems their bodies cannot. But usefulness becomes safety only when restraint accompanies power. A person who crowds, feeds, pets, films, or captures can turn rescue into another threat. The animal's trust may last only as long as the human behaves predictably. One sudden movement can shatter it. One careless crowd can block the escape route. One viral video can bring dozens of strangers to a vulnerable den. Compassion without discipline is still dangerous. Real kindness often looks uneventful from a distance. It lowers its voice. It steps sideways. It leaves room. It calls experts. It protects the animal from attention as carefully as from injury. These choices explain why some encounters end peacefully. They also explain why trust should never be tested for entertainment. No one should approach a wild mother hoping to recreate a miracle. No one should handle a baby merely because the parent is watching. The same animal that tolerates help today may defend itself tomorrow. Wildness is not betrayal. It is the condition we are supposed to preserve. The final key is that animals and humans share an ancient problem. Every parent must judge danger with incomplete information. Every rescue begins before certainty arrives. The fox could not know what waited behind the bakery door. Mara could not know whether the fox would attack. Lena could not promise the cub would survive. Each participant acted within a narrow corridor of risk. The result looked like trust because no one abused the opening. Perhaps that is the most honest definition available. Wild trust is not surrender. It is not friendship guaranteed forever. It is a temporary decision that another creature may be safer than the emergency. Sometimes the decision grows from memory. Sometimes it grows from observation. Sometimes desperation leaves no better path. And sometimes a human notices the invitation without imagining more than it means. Across the world, countless animals solve crises without us. They carry young through storms, defend nests, dig new dens, and lead families toward water. Their independence deserves as much wonder as the rare moment they approach. The extraordinary event is not that nature needs humanity. It is that two frightened species occasionally cooperate without sharing language. A mother reveals the location of her baby. A human recognizes the risk. Hands move carefully. Claws remain lowered. A barrier opens. A life continues. Then the distance between wild and human closes again. The animal returns to the forest, river, sky, or sea. The human remains with a story that feels almost impossible. That story should not make us feel chosen. It should make us feel responsible. If an animal ever places its vulnerability near us, the moment is not an award. It is a test of patience, humility, and control. The best response may be calling a rescue center. It may be stopping traffic. It may be cutting a fence. It may be standing still while a family crosses. It may be walking away. Why do wild animals trust humans with their babies? Because under extreme pressure, survival can outweigh fear. Because experience can teach them that certain people or places reduce danger. Because parental drive can push an animal beyond its usual boundaries. Because our tools can solve problems that teeth, wings, hooves, or claws cannot. And because trust does not need to be complete to become useful. It only needs to last long enough for one careful action. The fox beneath the street lamp did not choose humanity. She chose one open doorway in a city of closed ones. Mara did not become part of the fox's family. She became a safe moment inside a dangerous morning. The cub did not leave the forest forever. It returned, carrying no visible memory of human hands. That is exactly how the rescue was meant to end. The greatest proof of kindness was not an animal staying near us. It was an animal becoming free enough to leave.